So I encourage you to open up your copy of the Groceries Exercise. And let's just remember what we were asked to do here. We were provided this maybe intimidating data structure stored in a variable called products. What data type did we say this was again? I forget. Quick recap. List, right. We know a list is a comma separated like container for a number of items. So follow up for you if you're up for it. We have what kind of item in this list? Right. This is a list of dictionaries. And so if we weren't sure, we could always ask, well, what data type is this product's variable? And that's a great place to start. So maybe we'll just print, well, what data type is our product's variable? Oh, it's a list. Okay. That means we can do lists like things, like accessing each item by its numeric position. So if we wanted to access the first item in this list, how could we do that? Quick recap from last class. We got a list. We want to pick out just that first item and take a look at it some more. First item 0. Right, exactly. Yes. Why can we do this? It's because we know we're working with a list. And how do we access any item in a list? Well, we use square brackets and we pass in its numeric position known as the index. In programming, we remember that the first item starts at index 0. It's just some pattern to get used to in many programming languages. All right, so we're starting to work with this list. We access the first item. Whoa, maybe not sure what this is about, but we can always also ask, well, what data type is this thing? And this is what I encourage you to do. Even if you think you're sure, it never hurts to be explicit. So we'll also ask, like, what data type is this first product? All right. Each item is a dictionary, like we heard. Follow-up question. We know dictionary data types are containers that have key value pairs, where instead of like a list where the value is referenced by its numeric position in the container, with a dictionary, we have a textual name of this item, and that textual attribute name is known as a key. So we have key value pairs. Quick recap, what are the keys of this dictionary? And coincidentally, every dictionary in this products list, but we could focus on just this one. What are the keys? Yeah, the keys are the attribute names, the descriptive names for each value in this dictionary. And so they come before the colon: ID, name, department, aisle, and price. And if we want to explicitly ask, well, what are the keys of any dictionary, like our products 0? We can invoke the dot keys method on it and make sure to use trailing parentheses. And then we explicitly see, okay, each dictionary has an ID, name, department, aisle, and price. Why is this important? Because when we access an item from a dictionary, we need to reference its key name. So if we wanted to print the price of this first product, I'd love a volunteer. How can we print its price? Any takers? We know this is our first item. If we want to take it in steps, we can always store this thing in a variable like first item or whatever, A or whatever, and then print that first item and print, well, what data type is that first item? And we'll see it's a dictionary. So how could we pick out the price of this first item variable? Crucially important. How do we access any item within a dictionary? Yeah. Any syntax you could give us? Like the list, we'll use square brackets. We want to take some piece of this container. Exactly right, exactly right. So it's very much similar to a list. With a list, we said, all right, give us item 0 using square brackets. And that got us the first item in the list. In the list, we're referencing items by their numeric index. But with a dictionary, we have a textual key name to reference, but the syntax is otherwise the same. We take our first item, we use square brackets, and now within these square brackets, we can access any one of its keys, and we're actually being prompted to do that. So we could access just the name, just the price, just the department. Let's access just the price. So here, instead of passing like 0 or 1 into square brackets, we're actually specifying the key name of the dictionary. This is us taking this in multiple steps, but if we wanted to do it all using chained accessors, we can just say products 0 price. Going down one level at a time. First product, okay, that's a dictionary. Okay, we can grab its price. Questions before we move on? All right. So let's remember what the heck we were doing with this exercise. Part 1 tells us, all right, keep using that products variable and let's like display it in a little more human-friendly way. We have this header, which we did at the end of last class, but I want to just spend a few minutes on. And then it looks like we have some information about each product, like its name and price. So our next goal is going to actually be to loop through the products and just display the name and the price. Before we get there, let's revisit what we did in the first part of this header. I showed you 3 different ways of mixing a number and string and printing them. And I shared this, I believe, in Slack if you need to reference this. So this first approach uses comma-separated print statement. And we know that the comma introduces a space character, and so we could assemble our message this way. There are, that's one string, comma. Now we'll print the number of products that we have. Why did we know to use the len function to count the number of items? It's because with any list, we pass that into the len function if we want to get a count of the items. So we're leveraging our knowledge that this products variable is a list, and that's why we can pass it into the len function, which is a built-in function in Python that counts items in a list. All right, so it's like there are, comma, 20, comma, products. That works. We're just leveraging the print statement and its fancy commas here. And we know we could print any number of items separated by commas. So that's approach 1. And I believe that most of you are probably familiar with that. Approach 2 is if we want to assemble a single string or join together these different objects into a single string, if we want to do that using string concatenation and the plus sign operators, then we could do that. It's just that this len of products, that number 20, we recall that if we try to add a string and a number, Python won't know what to do. It's like, well, do you want to do addition? Do you want to do string concatenation? So that's why we convert this number to a string before we concatenate it. So if you have some numbers, if you want to do concatenation, you might have to do some data type conversion, like our second example. And this arrives at a single string that is being printed. The final approach also arrives at a single string that's being printed. But I hope that you could see that this third approach may be more readable than at least the second one. There's a lot of plus signs, there's additional data type conversions. In the third approach, this is sometimes called string interpolation. You could think about it as we are injecting some kind of variable, it doesn't matter what data type it is, inject that inside some string. So here we have a string. On the extremities, it has quotes. If we want to inject a variable inside, we'll place that variable within squiggly braces, like our length of products is in between squiggly braces. And in order to really make it work, we also have to weirdly add the letter F right before our string. That makes this what's called a format string in Python. It's kind of weird, but very helpful, very, very powerful. And I think this is more readable than the string concatenation approach. All right. Before we move on, questions about these three options, they're totally equivalent. And in many cases, you can choose whichever one works for you. What you'll notice that with the first option, we're limited in the sense that there will be space characters. We can't get rid of them. We have to use squigglies, I think. Yep. So just some kind of patterns and rules to get used to. Yep. And if this is weird, and if you think the string concatenation makes more sense to you, then just roll with that. So these are equivalent. I just want you to know about these. Other questions? All right, cool. Let's keep it moving. We have our header. I'll just leave all three of these options live. You can use any one that you want. And again, I posted these to Slack last class. All right, we have our header. Great. Now let's move on to the main objective here. It looks like we want to print each product on its own line, one at a time. Why don't we try to loop through the products and just print each product? We could start there. Can we print the entire product for each one in our list? Okay. Then if we could print the entire product, we know each product is a dictionary. Each product we just investigated has certain keys like ID, name, aisle, and price based on this specific variable that we're provided, the product's variable. So then we're going to just try to print the name. Then we'll also try to print the price. So we'll work on this in an iterative way. All right. So we know we want to arrive at some output like this. We know we have our products and it's a list. And heads up, we want to loop through the list. So that being said, knowing we have a variable called products that is a list data type, how could we loop through it and print each item in that list? I'd love a volunteer.
Just to get started, would be like for like you do I in range products colon, and then you have prints products.
I see what you're doing.
Or would be prints and I.
Yeah. What I hear is a method that would work if we reference the index of each item in the list. In Python, we could do this directly using a for loop. And so let's think about a simpler way to do this. You could do it. I know where you're going with this and that works. And in other languages, you might have to do it that way. Let me encourage you to start coding using Python conventions here. And we could simplify this. We don't need to reference the index, but you can. So thanks for that. Follow up or other folks? How can we loop through this list of products and just print each one?
It's like that's
Yeah. So what I hear from you is what I heard from you is we need to put products in the second slot. And I think that's also what I may have been hearing from you. Let's think about these slots. We know we want to loop through this list, so we have to use a for loop. When we use a for loop, there's some slots for us to fill in. For something, in something, and then indented will like do something. So remember, this is the pattern. And in one of these slots, we have no choice of what value to use. In the second slot, we have no choice but to use products. This is the list that we want to loop through. So I actually would fill in the second slot first. Our goal is to loop through this list, so we have to put in the second slot. Now, we have an absolute choice of a variable name that we would like to call each product as we loop through them. And we put that variable name in the first slot. So I think I heard like I maybe, and you could use I. If we use I, then we'll have to print I. Let's try that out. That gets us each product. Print, I'll also print like a hard-coded string here, just so you see that we're separating. And then what I didn't do last class is also I'm adding a bottom here, print bottom. So after the loop finishes, after all the items have been looped through 1, 2 through 20, eventually that's when we reach the bottom. So only after the loop has looped through all the items in the list, then we reach the bottom. Anyway, we did it. We looped through these items. Here with a for loop, the variable we choose references that item directly, so we don't need to like reach into our products and reference the index again. So usually we might use a variable like I to reference a number. And so here with each product, we took a look earlier, what data type is I? It's a dictionary. So we're looping through like dictionaries here. So what I might recommend we do is use a variable name either called item or P, like each individual product singular or product singular. Maybe I will just choose P here. For P in products, print P. You could use whatever variable name you want. If you want to say for X in products, print X, that's all good. So it's that simple. We fill in the second slot with the list we want to loop through. We have an absolute arbitrary choice of what to call each item in the list, but whatever we call it, that's the variable we'll have to reference from within the scope of this loop. So, all right, we loop through. Cool. That was a great step that we did. We're getting closer. So now let's remember what our objective is. We don't want to print the entire product. It looks a little messy. Instead, we want to print just the name and also separately just the price. We know that each product P is a dictionary with keys of ID, name, department, aisle, and price. We know that if we reference an individual product dictionary, like we did in our warm-up, let's see, where we had the first item, we know if we're referencing one of these dictionaries, we can pick out any of its keys using this kind of dictionary accessor. So that being said, how can we, instead of printing the entire product within our loop, how can we print just the name? Let's start there. We're going to iterate on this a little bit. Right now we're printing a bunch of stuff about each product P, but we just want to print its name. We know name is a key. Yeah, go for it. Yep, so I'm just going to comment out this other stuff so we continue to get like a clean. You said print. What did you say? I'm listening.
In parentheses, and then square brackets.
Very close. If we use product singular as our variable, then we would use product name. Otherwise, if we're using P as our variable,
Yes.
you're all good. So now we'll use P. Perfect, perfect. Here we're referencing each dictionary and asking for its name, and we could print that out. So let's see what happens. Cool. I just commented out this other stuff. All right, so now we're looping through and printing the name. You see us working in this iterative fashion. This is the approach that I encourage you to take. Don't try to get to the answer immediately. It might be hard. Just take it one step at a time. We're investigating. Can we print each item? Okay, cool. What data type is that item? Oh, it's a dictionary? Okay, what are its keys? Oh, we want to print the name? Okay, now we're printing the name. All right, so here we're printing the name. Let's also print the price. How could we also print this dictionary's price? Maybe we'll use a comma separated print statement here. Yep, exactly. We could print these on two different lines if we want. That works. Awesome. So price is another key of our dictionary. We can access it using square brackets and the name of the key. Just like we did for name. All right, yeah, go for it. You could use double quotes or single quotes. Yep, it's any string. So we're using a string here as the key name. So we can surely print them on different lines, but if we want to print them on the same line, we know we could use a comma separated print statement like print this product's name, comma, this product's price. There we go. We're starting to get closer to our desired output. We're just working one step at a time. Can we also get the price in there? Okay, great. So, questions so far? How are we feeling? Okay. Some new stuff? All right. We see that the price is not rounded or formatted as a $sign. And we see that in our goal, we do want to format the prices as $signs. This is a little tricky and I wouldn't expect you to do this on your own. That's why I'm providing you with a function called toUSD and it's in the setup. So we'll need to make sure that we run this cell that has a definition of this toUSD function. We also see some examples of how to invoke it and some tests to ensure that it's working as desired. So knowing that the toUSD function, I guess if we pass a number in, then we'll get a $sign and rounded price back. Knowing this, how can we now use this toUSD function to print those product prices as prices instead of just numbers? Again, we pass a number in to the toUSD function to format it. And I'm providing you with this toUSD function. So make sure you run this setup cell that has this function in it. Once we run that cell, we could use this function. So right here, we're printing the price and it's not rounded or formatted. Exactly right. Here, we're referencing that price. It looks numeric, like 3.5. So we'll pass that in to the toUSD function. I'm just going to keep iterating here. I'm just going to comment this out and do the next iteration of it. And then I'll share that with you. Like toUSD, and then we'll pass this price in. And that will help us format these prices. Nice. Cool. So I'll share this in Slack as well. So you see us just working one small step at a time. This is what I encourage you to do. All right, there's some more there's some more formatting to do, but we need to get into some main concepts of the day. So at this time, we've done most of part one. We printed the product name and price for each product in our inventory. But these products are not in order of their name. We see in the desired output, all seasoned salt should be first, and then chocolate fudge. So here we want to print these products in alphabetical order of their name. So now let's get into some new concept related to sorting lists. So I'll teach you how to sort a list, and then we'll come back here to finish up part one. So. Guys. Here, when we review our desired output, we see that these products are sorted in alphabetical order of their name. So I'd love a volunteer. How could we arrive at this sorting solution? Right now, we were looping through the products and we see we were able to print the name and price of each, but we want this list to be in order. So, thoughts? Yeah. Why? I'm just gonna do a new cell, by the way. We'll leave what we had and then do like a new cell here. You say from operator module import item getter. Why are we even doing that? Say that again. Yes, we do. In order to use this function in this other notebook, we need to import it. But why are we reaching to go use this function? What tells us we need to do that? Perfect. We know our products list is a list of dictionaries. And if we want to sort it, we have to use this approach. Okay, cool. I'm listening.
We can say sort of that variable. The product.
Yeah, the entire list of products here. That's that list that we want to sort. Okay.
Then we will say how much. I can get it. And then press 3 and 4.
Awesome. Why name?
That's like.
Yep. Each product has a key called name, and that's on the basis of what we want to sort. Cool. Let's just run this real quick and see how it goes. All right. I guess we see that the first item in this resulting list is all season salt. So these are sorted. Great. That's a great step in the right direction. All right. So I guess how can we loop through these now? We have a messy display. We don't just want to see all these, just the full list of products. How can we now take the next step? Before we were looping through the products, we said for P in products, print P. So how can we loop through this sorted version of our products? Thoughts?
Like redefine products, or just do like products underscore modified.
Yep. Some other new variable name. I'll just choose sorted products here, but you could say like new products or sorted products or modified products or X or whatever you want. Okay.
And then you just do for P in sorting.
Perfect. Exactly right.
No.
Yep. So like print P name. Same thing we had before, comma, to USD P price. Yeah, awesome. That's it. Notice that we needed to do our sorting operation before we loop. Once we sort, then the list will be in order, so we could just loop through it. And it's already in the right order. Awesome. So that was sorting. Hopefully that was some good practice. And we did a complex example there where we're sorting this nested structure, this list of dictionaries, this list of product dictionaries. Each has its own name, aisle, department, and price key, and we're sorting on the basis of the name. All right, that was it. That was part one, I think. There's some more formatting to get your print statements in, like to look exactly like we want, but I'll let you explore those. You might have to use a format string, for example, to get the parentheses around the price. And so if you have questions about that, we can follow up about them offline.